On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome inside episode 389 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan, out on the East Coast in Halifax, Nova Scotia, alongside Brandon Piller up in Collingwood. And as we await the pending contract between Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators, it was great to see the players back on the ice at the CTC, albeit the rookies. They've had their 3-on-3 scrimmage. They've had a few on-ice sessions, and there are some clear standouts, according to the media, who's been at the arena. So we'll touch on that. We'll also get back to our organizational value rankings, where we have two tendies among today's four. So as a goalie-friendly show, you know we love that almost as much as we love the fact that the main camp is only 8 days away. Whole lot to get into and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day. Today is Tuesday, September 14th, and Pilsy, for the first time in 151 days, there was hockey at the Canadian Tire Center.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to get some info on these games. No stream, unfortunately, but some of the Ottawa media members were able to let us in on what happened with these few games, 3-on-3 style. And it's just nice to know that the boys are back on the ice and this year is starting to grow. We've got the rookies are on the ice, dev camp's going on, the preseason's coming up, the rookie games are coming up, and the home opener is just around the corner.
Yeah, the first rookie game will be this Saturday, September 18th, and then they'll do it again against the same Montreal rookies. Are we getting Pinto versus Caulfield? Wow, we're so spoiled. And that'll be on September 20th. Of note, Pinto and JBD were not involved in the 3-on-3. No reason why, but Pilsy, it seems like Egor's got the clutch gene. Not only has he been tearing up the first 3 days of camp, we'll get into Wayne Scanlon's article that I was lucky enough to have a quote in, but coming down to the final of the 3-on-3 tournament, who's going to step up? It's none other than the Shark himself.
Yeah, how about 2 goals for Egor Sokolov in the final there? And I'm just looking at the thread here from the Ottawa Senators, and it seemed like, and I probably could have told you this from the start, but Team Black definitely had, if I'm picking one of those 3 teams, I'm taking Team Black all the way, and they ended up winning it with Egor Sokolov definitely showing the Ottawa Senators management and the media that he was one of the best players on the ice. As we heard in Wayne Scanlon's article, that it was pretty unanimous that Pierre Dorion and the media liked what they saw from Egor Sokolov.
That was my favorite part of Scanlon's article, that little insight where all the media, yeah, they were talking together, but then Pierre Dorion popped down and said, hey guys, who do you think was the best player on the ice today? Everyone in unison said Egor Sokolov, and he said, oh yeah, by a mile. Do you think this kid could really make his way into the opening night lineup?
I mean, there is an opportunity for him to do that. With Evgeny Dadonov leaving, there is a spot there, but I'm going to stick with what I've been saying the whole time. I don't think he will make the team out of camp. I think if we do see him, it should be for a longer stretch of time after the trade deadline and in the end of the season, just to kind of see what he can do. And after he's had a little bit more time in the AHL to develop, get almost a full season under his belt. And I think this year we're really going to see Egor take strides in Belleville. Not that he didn't in his rookie year, but on top of that, even more.
So we know that points and goals aren't everything, but they certainly do help. The Senators have 7 preseason games. I figure Egor is going to get into at least 4, probably 5 of them. How much of an impact does he have to make in those games to change your mind and to give him that opening night spot?
Well, I think if he maintains the energy that he's had already, and it seems like he spent a lot of time in the offseason preparing and getting better. So I think if he ends up scoring a couple goals and can show that he's not a liability with his skating, which is something that he told us that he's really focused on. So if his skating looks good and he can get himself in opportunities to use that heavy shot of his, I think then it would definitely give the Senators some consideration to try to find a heavy, good sniper to fill that right shot, right side, for especially for a second power play unit. Getting Sokolov on there, man, that would look nice for DJ Smith. But I think it would have to be a lights out performance for him to get a spot out of camp, I think.
It would just be such poetic justice after the first time he was passed over in the NHL draft. Reminder that Egor Sokolov was passed over twice. And one of those years, he attended Toronto Maple Leafs development camp. If he could play against them in the opener, that would add a little juice to it for me as well. So obviously we're cheering for Egor, and go check out Wayne Scanlon's latest article. Lots of great insight about him, his upcoming. And of course, I was able to shoot Wayne an email yesterday. He's been a guest on this show multiple times, and he said he's going to come on closer to the season starting. He said he didn't want everyone to think the fix was in for him appearing on the pod the day after, using my quote to pump up Egor. But I'll do that happily anytime, because the play on the ice, everything. Somebody get him a real number, though. Number 75, that might be the worst rookie number in the entire index. I can't think of one even worse.
It definitely is a weird one. And for someone like Sokolov, who led the team in scoring last year in Belleville, you think you give him a little bit of an edge and a hierarchy in the number picking game for sure.
Okay. Not to put our tinfoil caps on too much when it comes to numbers, but a lot of these guys at rookie camp are wearing those high football linebacker numbers, that sort of thing. Ridley Gregg got number 17. Does that think he gets an inside track to make this team? We know that there's less pressure if he does, because you have that 9-game sample to send him down at any point. I think he gets his feet wet this year, man. And he was lights out by all accounts too. It seemed like it was Egor, and then there was that second tier of Ridley Gregg and Angus Crookshank. Should mention all three of those guys guests on this show.
Yeah, not a big deal at all. And yeah, that's the thing. I think there is an opportunity for Ridley Gregg to get a chance here. And another great article by a friend of the show, Ian Mendez on The Athletic.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly. He did a good piece about Ridley Gregg and what his goals are, and even got some quotes from his dad, Mark Gregg, with the Flyers as well. So it was a good article. Definitely check that out. But I think Ridley Gregg, and there was a quote in there, Sean Donovan made a player compared Ridley Gregg to Mike Pekka. And you guys know I'm a big Mike Pekka fan, constantly saying Mike Pekka instead of Matthew Pekka, poor kid.
No relation.
Yeah, and I mean, Sabres jersey in the background, Hasek and Pekka were two of my favorites, that's for sure. So if we could see Ridley Gregg turn into a Mike Pekka type, man, because if you look at Mike Pekka's stats in the regular season, like, a middle six kind of player, but in the playoffs, man, that guy stood out. He was a big performer for them in Edmonton on their run to the Cup way back.
True. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and I heard a couple more comparables. Jesse Winchester said he sees Crooker's game developing almost like Brendan Gallagher, which would be a nuisance. And then, oh man, you just see, and this one I always do with an air of caution. It's a style of player. It's things that you notice about each other's game that are similar. We're not saying that Egor is going to be Mark Stone, but when you look at a guy who comes into dev camp, I was at Mark Stone's first development camp in 2011, and this guy could not skate to save his life. I'm not kidding. They were doing those drills where you're one leg up, the power skating coach was out there, one leg up, C-cut, and then put that leg down, C-cut, and Mark Stone fell upwards of 5 times. Nobody else fell at all. And now look at what the career he's had. So Igor's improved his skating leaps and bounds. So that was a player comparable that Sean Donovan threw out there. So if we're going with that, we've got Mark Stone, we've got Pavel Bure, with DJ Smith calling Stützle a bigger Pavel Bure. So of course hyperbole comes into play with all those. Hey, Pills?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think especially the Pavel Bure reference there. But you know what? It's those type of players that they made big impacts in their time in the NHL. And guys like Sokolov, Crooker, Gregg, they can make an impact too if they continue on this progression that they've shown so far.
On Friday's Locked On Senators, again, you can find us on YouTube now if you want to see our pretty faces, as I've been switching up hotel rooms seems like for the last month, but that's going to be settled down by the end of the week, which is
You better
great.
find that Ray Emery card, Ross, though. We hit 500 subscribers.
You're damn right. So stay tuned next Monday. Comment on this post when we put our episode posts up on YouTube, why we should give you this hopefully signed Ray Emery card from his days in Binghamton. And I wouldn't keep saying signed. I'm 99% sure that it is. But that being said, when I get back to Winnipeg, start unpacking, we're going to have that ready to go and send off to one of our subscribers. We really do appreciate that. We're trying to get the YouTube at least to 1,000 and beyond from there. But you can also find Locked On Senators wherever you download your audio podcast. Nothing changes with the audio, whether it's the Odyssey app, Spotify, Apple, you name it, we're on there for you. And coming up, starting next week, we are back to 5 days a week. We've got a couple great interviews in the hopper, just trying to plan a time for them. It's been a wild time right now. I want to have one more note on the rookies before we get back to our organizational value ranking, and that's Philippe Daou. Now, David St. Louis, and the whole reason I started that diatribe was on Friday's Locked On Senators, we got into Elite Prospects, top 100 prospects. And Jake Sanderson was 5th, which is awesome. There are 2 other Sens there. I would encourage everyone to go down or get the subscription to EP Ringside. But Pilsy, David St. Louis, who's one of the experts alongside Mitch Brown, who we've had on the show recently, he tweeted out yesterday that Philippe Daou is a prospect that flew under his radar and that his skating and pace were issues, but he's one of the smartest forwards in the Quebec Major Junior League. And then not even 5 hours after that, a Instat, which they provide in-depth statistics for junior hockey leagues as well, they put out who had the most successful dekes per 60 in the Quebec League with a minimum of 120 minutes played. So you had to be a regular to qualify for this. And Daou was first. That's pretty solid. Whenever you're number one in a category like that, you love to see it.
Especially successful dekes by a defenseman, like, man.
No, by a forward.
I always get Daou mixed up with Max Gannett. Yes.
Good.
He's a forward. And if you're able to do that successfully, where I was going to go with that is that really improves your transition game, right? Like, you're able to bring the puck up ice, and if you could just deke through a player, then that's a solid way to easily maintain the puck, put a player behind you, and get the puck moving up the ice. And it also creates defenses. They need to really be on their toes. They can't just assume you're going to either pass it or dump it. You can carry it right through them with a nice deke by Daou. That's going to be awesome. So I'm excited to see what he can do this offseason if I can keep him separated from Gannett in my head.
So in terms of the top 5, and just to show you how he was head and shoulders above everybody else, 5th was 5.1. 4th was 5.1. Again, this is successful dekes per 60 minutes. 3rd was 5.5, then 5.6, and then Daou had 7. So that's solid. So I thought that was worth pointing out, Pilsy. We've got a former Senator on the move as well. We'll tell you about that right after our friends at BetOnline. Now, BetOnline is the #1 sportsbook at the Locked On Podcast Network, and for good reason, too. We've been with them for a long time. Stay tuned next week when we start doing our previews for the division and beyond. We're going to get into the future bets that you can find right now at betonline.ag. So go get ready, because we're going to be on it next week. So go get ready. Sign up for a free account today at betonline.ag. And when you do, make your first deposit. Put in the promo code. Do not forget this, the promo code Locked On for a 50% welcome bonus. How about that? The people at BetOnline want to take care of you and give you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Now, that's great and all, but you have to win it to earn it. So stay tuned, and we'll tell you where to sprinkle that money coming up next on Locked On Senators. So go betonline.ag. We want you in the action, so get off the sidelines. Use our promo code Locked On for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, your online sportsbook expert.
Guys, and with September here and rolling along, it's almost the greatest time for sports fans. Hockey's around the corner. Week 1 of NFL football just happened. Baseball playoffs are fastly approaching, and you got basketball on its way too. So you got to make sure you're able to watch all these games, and you don't want to have 20 different subscriptions and logins and passwords that you got to remember. So the best way to do that is check out DirecTV Stream. You don't want the controllers. You don't want all the mix-ups, and you got to change sources on your TV. None of that. You can get it all in one place. Get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV, your on-demand favorites, together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and television shows all conveniently in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no more having to buy another device ever again. And the best part of all of it is there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter, get rid of the confusion, and get your TV together the best way possible with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Check it out today. DirecTV Stream at directtv.com.
All right, Pilsy. A hat tip to the guys over at the Wally and Method Show. They had Frank Saravalli on today. And a quick update on the Brady Tkachuk rumors. And we touched on where in the world is Brady Tkachuk on Friday. Turns out he was in Virginia cheering on his sister, who's a freshman at the University of Virginia, for their field hockey team. She's a star in the making by all accounts. But Frank Saravalli said both sides are grinding away. They met for a long time in Toronto, trying to, chip away at this long-term contract. And I think if there's a contract announced before training camp, I believe it will be a 6, 7, or 8 year deal. I think that if you're getting to hours before training camp, then the importance might shift to him not missing any time because he's so important. Maybe they do a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal, and then go back. And of course, that would not be ideal. But with the way the world is, who knows? So we don't really want to guess too much. Something we don't have to guess about, though, Pilsy, is where Erik Gudbranson's going to play next season. He signed with the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, I guess the Calgary Flames like what they saw when he was a part of that North Division and played against them a couple times. But I wasn't surprised that he was picked up, Ross, but I was surprised that they paid him nearly $2 million. Like, I don't know. At this point, if I could decide between Michael Del Zotto and Gudbranson, I'm taking Del Zotto at that dollar amount all day. Although Del Zotto did get another year on there, so that's where kind of the issue is there. But really interesting move for them to go with Gudbranson, that's for sure.
I did notice that as well. I saw the news release and I said, they got him, league minimum.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
They're going to see if he can play. No, almost $2 million. So Daryl Sutter, that's old boys club. That's how he wants to play the game. So by all means, the Senators, by the way, do have a conditional 7th round pick back from Nashville for the, whatever rental you'd call him. Remember Gudbranson, Ben Harper? What a pairing in Nashville last year. So
and that's a 2023 conditional 7th round pick too.
Yeah. So, hey, don't wait by the phone. If you're a Sens fan trying to learn about that player, we won't be discussing the return from Erik Gudbranson anytime soon on the show. You know what we will be discussing, though? That's our organizational value rankings, Pilsy. We've been doing this over the last couple weeks, and we're all the way up now into NHL players. And we're at 29 today. We're going to go all the way to the top of our 5th tier, which takes us to 26. And we'll start with a Tendy. We've got 2 Tendies back to back here, up 15 spots. And you know what? You could argue that he should have moved up even more based on the season he had over in Finland. Coming in at number 29, it's Lucky Leevi Meriläinen.
Yeah, definitely you could argue that there's a scenario where you could see him higher on this list because it seems like Leevi can do no wrong. Like it's very rare that we get a Leevi Meriläinen stat sheet or update that's like, oh man, that's not great. Like it's almost always good or very good. Like he's been able to really settle into a groove over in Finland. He's over in North America now. Let's hope he can do that here because he's on a Kingston Frontenac's team that is definitely positioned to make some noise this year in the OHL.
Well, he didn't lose a game last year, so that's pretty good, I would say. And we got a quote here today as well from Scott Wheeler with The Athletic. Of course, Sens fans have fun with him around draft time always. But he was talking to the Kingston Frontenac's coach, who's Luca Caputi. He's a former NHL player. But
Guelph Storm former coach as well.
Oh, well, there you go. So here's the quote from Scott Wheeler on Twitter. He said, he asked Caputi on a recent call about Leevi. He says, he's going to be a good goaltender. Quote, he's already a big piece of the puzzle here. There's no issue there whatsoever from what I've seen. So that's awesome to hear. He's going to be a big reason for any success the Kingston Frontenacs have this year, and they're going for it, right? Shane Wright is a star in the making. He's the projected first overall pick this upcoming NHL draft. So if you're the Frontenacs, you see a scenario realistically where he might not be a Frontenac next year. He might be playing as an 18-year-old in the NHL. So this is a team that's got their eyes set on a Memorial Cup. And what are they going to need? Great goaltending. So this is a big year for Meriläinen. The Sens had him on their radar, picking him third round. He was used with the pick that Ottawa got for Dylan DeMello, a fan favorite. Nobody wanted to see Mello traded. But when you saw the body of work that this kid put in and game out overseas, there's just no reason to doubt him coming over. So I think it's going to be a seamless transition for a guy who stopped 93.4% of the shots in a 22-game sample size last season.
Yeah, definitely he's set up to succeed. Good team coming off a good season in Finland. The coach already likes him. I'm really excited to watch some Kingston Frontenacs games whenever they're in Owen Sound or Barrie. I'm definitely going to check that out, especially because I think Leevi Meriläinen will start majority of these games. So it's going to be good chances that we'll see him on any given night.
Yeah, he played those 4 games as well this summer with the World Junior Summer Showcase. What'd he do? .941 save percentage. How are you? So this kid, all he does is stop pucks. And I like that in my goalies. Do you? So
yeah,
we were joking on Friday too, because the Frontenacs put out a photo of him with his same Carpac gear. Still has all the advertisements on it. So that would be kind of a fun little quirk if he kept it, but I highly doubt it. Maybe that just means we should be even more excited, Pilsy, because we'll have another goalie gear reveal. We love that. They should have a new bucket coming in as well. And coming in at number 29 on our list is Leevi Meriläinen. Pilsy, what does he have to do to have a successful season? I kind of gave the high end, have a Memorial Cup run. Why don't you your first year? But to you, what would be considered a successful season for him?
For me, it's going to be the consistency, right? Can he stay consistent? He was obviously very comfortable in Finland, very comfortable playing international competitive levels with Team Finland, but can he keep that level on a regular schedule in the OHL, North American style game? And then if you're consistent throughout the regular season, how is he in crunch time? Like we just talked about, Kingston's going to be going for it this season. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. So when the playoffs come, can you be relied upon night in and night out? And then if he's able to have a good season, that's going to look really good for him the next coming season. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Leevi Meriläinen in Belleville, not next year, but the season after that. With 2 seasons in the OHL, if he's really good, I wouldn't be that shocked if he ends up at least making a case for himself to join Belleville down the road.
No doubt. And it's worth mentioning when you're talking about Leevi as well, that he's an August 13th birthday. So when he was selected in 2020, he was one of the youngest kids in the draft. The age cutoff is middle of September. So he just as likely could have been drafted this year. So that pathway, there's still a lot of room to grow when you're talking about a guy who, as a goalie, is very raw and very, very athletic. And he comes in at number 29. I mentioned up 15 spots. That's pretty impressive for him. And now at number 28, we couldn't put him behind Leevi. I think that fans might be more excited about Leevi right now. But we're talking about a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, and that has pull. But can Matt Murray, who comes in at number 28 on our list, bounce back to the level that he showed in Pittsburgh early on? And should be noted, man, this guy had a great finish to his season in Ottawa.
Yeah, to answer that question, I don't think we can expect, or I don't think it's fair to expect him to go back to his Stanley Cup caliber days with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But what I can expect, and is fair, is to see him playing the way he was playing at the end of the season. Obviously, the new goaltender coach really helped out. There was some kind of switch there. Maybe mentally he got a little more confident as well. His health was a little bit better until he got injured again. But if he can stay healthy and can stay confident, I really think we can see a number 1 goalie out of Matt Murray. Will he be justified by his salary? Probably not, let's be honest. And for the Ottawa Senators, classic contract scenario, the real dollars only go up as the contract goes on. He's going to be making $6 million this year. Last year was making $4 million. Then next year, $7 million. And in the final year, The Sens are paying Matt Murray $8 million real dollars. And another weird thing that I didn't really realize is in his contract, the first year of that contract, no movement clauses at all. The last 3 years, he has a 10-team no trade movement clause available to him. So not only is the real dollars going up, but also the teams you're going to be available to trade him to if you decide that you don't want to keep Matt Murray around are going down. So it's going to be hard for the Sens to kind of shed Matt Murray if they decide he's not the guy. But by no means am I saying that they need to start looking at that option. I think this year will be really interesting to see how Matt Murray does. And call me positive and too optimistic, but I do think he can have a bounce back year and be the goalie the Ottawa Senators need and pay him to be.
They certainly do. It's almost a catch-22 though, Pilsy, because if they want to trade him, it won't matter if he has a 10-team no trade list, because if they want to trade him, I bet you 32 teams won't want him then.
Yeah, definitely. That's fair. That's fair.
Whereas if teams are calling and you got to worry about that 10 team, then it would be great if he could step up and play the way that he did in those final 5 games. Now, to roll back the clock to when he came back from his injury, I can't remember exactly what the injury was, Pilsy. Do you recall?
Was it his hip? It might have been hip related. I'm not sure.
Okay, don't quote us on that. But what you can quote me on is that in his final 5 games, he played Winnipeg, then his final 4 games. Now, I'll put 3 in a bit because he got hurt again against the Vancouver Canucks, and his season was ultimately over. But in those last 5 games, he let in 6 goals and had a .954 save percentage. So that's really good. But what's really bad is the inconsistency that he showed early on in the year. You can go from every single one, nearly. There's one stretch where he had 3 really good games in a row after 3 really bad games in a row. But otherwise, each and every start alternated. 870, 925, 857, 925. Like, it just goes back and forth, and he needs to find stability. And that is probably more so than any other weakness, I think, can be attributed to coaching. So you get in Zach Burke. He comes in and he settles him down. He says, Matt, relax. Just, you're doing too much. And that's what he was doing. He was being way too busy in the crease, over-committing, bad movements. And let's hope he gets some gear here that can complement his game as well. Of course, that's secondary, but I think for Matt Murray, he just needed to press the full-on reset button. I can chalk it up to this. And I think that going into camp, Matt Murray needs to be given full opportunity, and he will. The contract dictates it, but to earn his starts and own the net for a significant number of games. I'm talking 75 to 80% of games this year should be Matt Murray's if things are going to plan. I don't need to see 30 games of Anton Forsberg. 15's plenty. When Matt Murray's on his game, he's calm, he can catch pucks, and his rebound control is perfect. Now, when he's off his game, he's dropping out of his trapper, and he's way busy in the net. You'll see it, and hopefully we get a full house at the CTC this year. But, Pilsy, if you see a bunch of snow in his crease 5 minutes into the period, it's going to be a long night for Matt Murray. That's just the kind of style he plays in his net. So I'm hopeful, though. I will say I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not betting on it, but I'm cautiously optimistic that he will have a good season.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think I'm maybe a little higher and more hopeful than you, but that's fair. And the thing too is, at the start of the season, here's a couple things going on. First, the Ottawa defense is absolute garbage. So no goalie, it was going to be successful, and no goalie was successful with the Senators.
Gus might have a word for you.
At the start of the season, I'm talking about.
True. Oh,
yeah.
My God.
Yeah. So
they could have put you and me in net at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So at the start of the season, it just wasn't working out for anyone. So that just kills your confidence. You're on a new team. You got a massive, big contract. It was a big deal getting you in here, and things don't work out for you to start. That's hard for your confidence. Now, not only that, but I feel like this is Derek Stepan's story as well. You're moving to a new team, new country, and they've just had a child. So with COVID, that makes it really hard too when you're leaving a young child at home and you're off playing hockey. You're stuck in a bubble for weeks, months at a time. So I think definitely those things can be taken into consideration why Matt Murray had a tough start. He got hurt. He got the reset, spent more time with his family, got a new goalie coach, comes in more confident, and he plays that way. It shows. Now, Ross, you said you want to see Matt Murray in like 80% of the games. I would love to see that too, but I don't think that's a smart play. I think, unfortunately, they're going to have to manage his workload here. And that's where it's really interesting to have a guy like Forsberg who you can fall back on and feel confident in for a couple games, but to also have someone nipping at Forsberg's heels in Gustafsson that you would love to see get a larger sample size than the 9 games he got last year. So I could see a scenario where Matt Murray starts, I don't know, let's say 60% of the games, Forsberg starts 20%, and then Gus starts the other 20%. Not a math guy, but I think I made it up to 100% there. So I think if that's a scenario where we could see Matt Murray succeed, is if he's not relied upon too much and the pressure doesn't get to him. Just go out there, play your game. We're going to monitor how your health is going, because I think he's the kind of guy where if his workload grows, a little tweak can set him out for a week or two in his muscles. So we got to watch that. So I would love to see Matt Murray get about 40 to 50 games this season. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a situation that, well, if Matt Murray can't stay healthy or his play dictates that if they call up another goal, I think more so be for injury in this scenario, that they would jump, and I'm assuming it's Gus in this case, that he would jump right over Forsberg and get starts. Because, I mean, Forsberg's on a 1-year deal. He's a good insurance policy, but is he somebody who you need to see play game in and game out?
You're not investing in him, yeah.
No, unless he's going full Brian Boucher and has a 5-game shutout streak going. I don't think that we need to see a consistent number of games from him. But with Matt Murray, I do, because a 10-13-1 record at the end of the day just is absolutely brutal with an .893 save percentage. Like, Pilsy, like that's not an NHL number, let alone a guy whose contract is $6.25 million. So let's just hope for better for Matt Murray this year. I was just in his hometown of Thunder Bay, so hey, maybe I sprinkled some good juju there for him. But hey, he's 6'4". He competes. We know that. So let's see if Zach Burke can work his magic on it. And if he does, good things are happening, because as we know, you can't have a good team or a good coach without a good goalie. So if he can be just that, then the Sens will be on to the next phase of the rebuild, just like we're on to the next phase of our countdown. We had 2 tendies. We've got 2 forwards coming up after we have a quick word from one of our favorite sponsors here at Locked On Senators. Yes, you know where I'm going. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. And Built Bars are amazing. They come in so many different flavors that you'll never get sick and tired of the same old. Just ask at Lesper 47, Zoob. We love that. He just got himself a delicious mix box of Built Bars, and we love you for that. I hope that, like Lesper 47, you use the promo code LOCK15, because the promo code LOCK15 will get you 15% off your next order of Built Bars. Now, just go see it for yourself. Go to built.com. So they've shortened it. You can go to builtbar.com. It'll just take you right to built.com. So that's built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. All right, Pilsy, back to the countdown we go. And coming in at number 27, we've got what would you say this? He's a centerman for sure. We've got Chris Tierney, who is the 3rd highest games played leader on the Ottawa Senator. Can you believe that?
It is wild, especially because, like, Chris Tierney, when you think of him, you're like, oh yeah, NHL vet. Well, he's the same age as Matt Murray. They're both only 27 years old. Like, wow. It's not like they're in their 30s here. So they definitely have time. It's too soon to write them off or anything. And the thing with Chris Tierney is, I think Sens fans, it's what have you done for me lately, right? And that doesn't look good on Chris Tierney. And I think the thing is, he got outpaced, as we all know. His pace isn't great. DJ Smith likes players that pay the pace. Dadonov wasn't able to do it, so he wasn't a fit here. And I think we're seeing the same thing with Chris Tierney. And the thing is, when he first came here, he had a really good season. Like, Chris Tierney started off, I'm just looking here, 81 games, 48 points. That was back in 2018, 2019. And then he had 37 points in 71 games. And then this year, it kind of drops off 19 points in 55 games. So he's not able to play the style of game the Ottawa Senators want him to. There's 1 year left on his deal at $3.5 million. I think it'd be best for him and everyone if they found a new home for him. But for the time being, he's a good guy to have around because he can play up and down your lineup. He can play on the penalty kill. He can dish the puck to good scorers, guys that can skate better than him, and they can transition the puck up ice. And he doesn't cost you too much, and he can kind of boost his numbers while you're trying to trade him. So I think it's good that they have Chris Tierney because they didn't go and acquire a veteran center at all. So he's a guy that is nice to have for this team, but he's not really a part of their future plans.
How fired up were you on Chris Tierney when he had 3 goals in the first 4 games of last year?
I think it was 3 goals and 3 shots even. Like, it was insane the amount of production he was able to do right away. And then
I can confirm that.
Yeah, it was wild what he was doing.
He had the game-winning goal in the opener against the Leafs, obviously.
Yeah, so that's pretty sweet, and I think Chris Tierney is a guy that he gets along with the other guys in the locker room. He's someone that has a veteran presence on this team, like we talked about, and I think he still has some good years of hockey left in him. It's just not a fit anymore, and Ottawa has guys that are up and ready and hungry to outpace him on that NHL roster.
Unless the pace picks up. Now, was he injured at all last year? Maybe suffering a lower body injury? Because I didn't notice pace being as much of an issue as it was last year.
But I don't think the Sens had that up-tempo pace
fair
figured out yet, right? It wasn't apparent yet because he was kind of still at everyone's level, or at least that's what it seems like.
Well, and when now you have Stützle and Formanton and Paul can fly, like you're adding all these speedy wingers, and you need centermen who can keep up with them. And that's fair enough. And that was the demise of Derek Stepan as well as all of his
big time
glass penalty. But the problem was after 3 goals in the first 4 games, Chris Tierney then went 29 games without a goal. And in a 56-game season, that's pretty harsh. And when you're a -12 over that same span, yikes. And the thing was, too, he wasn't even redeeming it in the faceoff circle. He was below 50% or hovering just around there. So it was tough because he is a good penalty killer. But then when Pinto came in, Pinto got the reps over him. And we know that Connor Brown and Nick Paul, the best PK duo in the league. So when you kind of lose the one area where you were still a very big factor, then you're starting to look on the outside in. And that's exactly what Tierney did in the final game of the season. He was a healthy scratch. Do you think that treatment of Tierney will carry into training camp, or is it a fresh slate? He'll have a chance to play in the top 9.
I think it'll carry on through. Like, DJ Smith knows what he has in him now. He's made it pretty clear here. And the thing is too, Ross, that you mentioned he's not even bringing it up in the faceoffs or shorthanded. The assists weren't really coming along either. Like, that was another thing. He was really good at dishing the puck out, and he wasn't able to find his spots anymore. So for Chris Tierney, it's unfortunate. And there was times, like, it's not like Chris Tierney was just anchored on that 4th line. Like, he was playing with Timmy for a little. Like, they mixed and matched him around a lot to try to make it work for him. And it was clear that it just wasn't working for him. And then you go to when he was bumped down to the 4th line and barely playing, he was getting great chances. How many times were he pulling our hair just like Chris Tierney, wide open net, and dumps it into the corner? I'll never forget that goal. He just dumped it into the corner on a wide open net. So he has the chances. He was given opportunities to shine, and it just wasn't working. So I think at this point, he's a plug and play guy. If you need him, if you decide not to go with the younger guys up the middle of the ice, you can have him as your press box guy. You can have him to fill in games here and there. And you just try to work to try to find a trade for him, because he didn't go to Seattle like I thought was going to happen, like I hoped was going to happen. So he's still available. And I think a team near the deadline, if they're looking to be a contender, would be lucky to have a guy like Chris Tierney at that salary for a playoff run. I think he could make a really good 4th line center on a contending team.
Yeah, you know what? I thought that Pittsburgh could have been an option. We know Malkin and Crosby are both out to start the year. So he's a guy who can play up a lineup. And then as guys come back, and good ones at that, I heard at least those 2 guys are pretty decent, that you could move a little bit further down. So I don't think all hope is lost with trading him. But again, a backloaded contract, and he's in the final year. His cap hit's 3.5, but he's making 4.5. So you're looking at a player who is definitely out monetizing his production. But when you look back, and yes, I know that people will answer and say the best ability is availability, when that's what I would answer when people, of course, say that other guys played less games than him that year. But his first year in Ottawa, the only players on the team who had more points than him were Mark Stone, Matt Duchene, and Thomas Chabot. That's it. Like everyone else was looking up at him. Brady Tkachuk, Ryan Dzingel, Bobby Ryan, Colin White, all guys with less points than Chris Tierney 3 years ago. But you didn't see the progression, and that was when he was 25. So you're like, okay, there's still a little room to grow, and it just stagnated a little bit. So Chris Tierney, I think if he doesn't play another game for the Sens, I wouldn't think twice about it. But hopefully, if he does, he can contribute. I'm just worried that in the fourth line, we're going to get to a guy who we know is going to play on the fourth line. I just think that Ottawa's entire identity is based around pace, and he's not the guy who's going to bring that to the lineup, at least what he showed last year.
Yeah, especially like you talk about on that fourth line, like you want to bring some energy there. And I think, Chris Tierney, I think he will play a bunch more games for the Ottawa Senators here, but I don't see him coming back after this season. That I can pretty much guarantee.
Fair enough. And he comes in at number 27 on our rankings as we go to number 26, our final dude today. And I call him a dude because he just seems like such a fun guy to be around. And that is Austin, the Iceman Watson, coming in at number 26. What would you say to people who right off the bat tell you that this is too high for a fourth line guy?
I would say they probably weren't able to watch him throughout this season. They just looked at the stats and they weren't able to tell the warrior that guy was.
What stats? This guy was scoring goals.
Yeah. I mean, he was on pace to have the best season of his career points-wise, even in a shortened season. Even if he only brought it up to about 56 games, he was right around his career best numbers projection. So, but the thing is, it's not about what he does on the stat sheet. It's about when he decides to make those moves. Like we gave him Sens Central Standout Awards so many times because at the end of the game, it's a 1-goal game. The other team has their goalie pulled. They pass it over to that high slot, one-timer, boom, Austin Watson's diving, getting his body in the way and blocking that shot. And he was willing to stand up for teammates, got in a couple tilts. He was willing to throw big hits. He was willing to pull guys off other guys in the scrum. Like, he's just a guy that I think the younger, smaller, more skilled players in Ottawa were happy to have on their side and felt a little bigger out there when Austin Watson was with them.
100%. And you mentioned the warrior mindset. I want to double down on that and just the fearlessness. And it cost him his season. That's how he broke his wrist. And that's how he left. And you love that he stayed in town. And then there was a video surfacing in the summer, him and DJ Smith around a card table hanging out. So you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. And I think I said this about a guy yesterday, or on Friday's show, I should say, but I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Watson wears an A at some point this year, if injuries allowed. It wouldn't be a full-time thing, but he's the kind of guy who everyone in the room looks to get the temperature. And if you're nervous before a game, you look at Austin Watson and you're like, all right, this guy gets it. Like, I want to go into battle with him. And hopefully that's what they do. That's why he's up 12 spots from where we had him last year. Like, this guy took a huge leap forward. And many people, when they made the reaction initial to the trade, they're like, this guy signed for 3 years. That's brutal. Like, why are you locking yourself into a guy who you can get as a replacement level player? Well, no, you're building a culture here in Ottawa, and DJ Smith is trying to do that. He wants guys like Austin Watson who are going to give absolutely everything, every single shift. You want them there for a long period of time. And now he's got 2 years left, $1.5 million, a very reasonable cap hit. And I'm excited to see what the offense would bring. It was 3 goals last year, but it felt like he scored some big ones in there as well. And he even scored a shorty, which was great to see. But 10 points in 34 games while only averaging 12 minutes of ice time. Like, give me more of that guy out there. So Austin Watson, I think he is determined, and his determination allowed us to put him as high as we did on this list.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about the contract when the initial reaction came out, and yeah, people are like, oh man, this guy's locked in. I think that's a big reason why he's been bumped up also, because now you don't got to go out there and try to lock in a guy and try to see if he works as a fourth line guy and see if he can fulfill that role, because you've got Austin Watson for 2 more seasons at only $1.5 million. Like, it's a great deal for the Senators, and I think if you'd ask Austin Watson as well, this was a big move for him too. Like, I don't really know what to say, but things in Nashville have just kind of gone stale. Doesn't it seem that way? Like, they've had that core there for a while. They've added pieces that were supposed to get the job done. They've shipped guys out of town. Like, Ryan Ellis is gone. That was a major part of their identity. Pecorine, gone. Like, it just, things were kind of drying out in Nashville. So now he gets a boost. He gets some youthful exuberance on his team, on the bench. And I think he's really kind of owned that role of being, again, he's a veteran, even though I think he's only, 29? Let me look here. Yeah, he's only 29. So he's not even 30 years old. And he's got these young guys fired up and they really respect what he does. So I think this was a great move for Watson. And he's going to continue to bring that energy and bring that warrior type mentality that him, Brady, Ridley, Gregg, all these guys, Parker Kelly, Nick Paul, all these guys are going to have. And it's going to really reflect on the rest of the guys and create a culture here.
We know that there's going to be some movement in the top six, although I would expect the top line to remain the same. Tkachuk, Norris, and Batherson once Brady signs. But as much as anybody, does Austin Watson have that fourth line right wing spot locked up, written in stone?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see any other player that you would want to put in that position. And like maybe there's a guy like Parker Kelly that if he gets called up, he can play on the wing. But I think as long as Austin Watson is healthy, he's your guy on that fourth line for sure on the right side.
You love to see it. Austin Watson coming in at number 26, up 12 spots. And just to recap, today we had at number 29, Leevi Meriläinen, at number 28, down 21 spots. We need a big bounce back, Pilsy, next year from Matt Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to see Matt Murray bounce back for sure. And as long as he stays healthy and stays consistent, there's no reason why he can't soar back up the rankings to where he was last season.
Chris Tierney down 8 spots from 27, and then Austin Watson up 12 spots to number 26. Pilsy will be back on Wednesday, hopefully with another update on the Brady Tkachuk contract situation and more news from development camp. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.